Hello everybody, welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video. We're trying to hit 20k subscribers, so it would be much appreciated if you have not joined the Little Rusty Buckets family already. This is the second breakdown that we're doing over here. If you missed the first one about the Indiana Pacers versus the Milwaukee Bucks, I just said that I don't like to do these breakdowns without actually doing a bunch of research. However, I'm not going to have the time to do said research with the play-in in full swing and the playoffs this weekend, so I am just doing a simple off-the-dome breakdown prediction of what is going to happen in this series. But I do know these teams fairly well. In fact, the Denver Nuggets the past couple of years have been one of my most high-watched teams, even if they're probably not high on that list this year. And this year's Los Angeles Clippers team, I've watched them more than maybe any other Clippers team since the Lob City era. Probably the 2020 Clippers, I was such a big believer in that I watched them more, but they never had a play style that I particularly enjoyed just because they were so dependent on some difficult shot making that would often lead to frustrating, stagnant offense. But that's the old Clippers team. This one is really fascinating to me because they have like an old school play style. Like they have a bunch of guys who are very in their role, which in the modern NBA, you don't find that usually. I mean, everybody has their role, but they usually have a couple of roles that is their role. It's not like you have a guy who's the de facto playmaker and shot creator, and you have a guy who's the de facto shooting guard, catch and shoot, scoring guy, or the de facto scoring wing, 3 and D, not really 3 and D, but just like a defensive minded ISO wing. And then the center, Zubac, who is a very traditional 5, especially for the modern NBA, an exceptionally traditional 5, even if he moves his feet super well, does a lot of modern big man stuff well. His play style is predicated on rebounding and finishing around the rim and protecting the basket. Very old school. And I feel like with Norm Powell, very traditional shooting guard. You do not see a lot of traditional shooting guards in the modern NBA. Usually, if you are a big time ball handler as a shooting guard, you're just going to get moved to the point guard position. And the catch and shoot, like high volume catch and shoot guys who most of their offense is predicated on their ability to catch and shoot the ball, especially scoring at a high volume, those players are becoming increasingly rarer. Guys whose job is simply catch the ball and shoot that shit, they're harder and harder to find. A lot of them are not good players, and the ones that are good, it's like kind of an outlier. It's a very weird thing because you would think in the era of three-point shooting, the role of just being the shooter would be more common, but the fact is most players who are just shooters do not see a whole lot of floor time in the NBA. Not to suggest that Norman Powell is just a shooter, because he definitely has a lot of creation ability, but it is first and foremost predicated on him coming off of down screens. If he doesn't have the three-point shot available, then he takes a dribble into a mid-range shot, things like that. Very modern day Byron Scott, if you will. Enough rambling about why I like the fucking Clippers. We're 3 minutes into this. I just went on that tangent for way too long. I apologize for that. This matchup is interesting. This is the one that I'm the most upset that I was not able to make a series preview on, because this is a very interesting matchup, because I believe very heavily in the Los Angeles Clippers. I've banked a lot on them, and I said that if Kawhi is able to put together a somewhat healthy playoff run, then they're easily my pick for the dark horse of the playoffs, because I don't think enough people have realized just how good this team is when Kawhi is healthy. Like, I'm not doing this, will Kawhi come in and completely save this team from the fact that they're so mid? No, this was a pretty good regular season team with or without Kawhi Leonard, and I think Kawhi has a factor to him where even if he's just a 20-point per game scorer and a good defender, him on top of what that team already does well is enough to just be a damn good team, period. Zubac, his finishing around the basket, James Harden's playmaking, the fact that his scoring has been so much more efficient as of late, all-star for the first time in a couple of years at the age of 35, lots of cool stuff from him. You have so much depth of scoring here, because I would argue that this team has 5 players rather, capable of having 20 points on any given night. James Harden, Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, who they added at the trade deadline, which was a perfect buy low pick, because Bogdan had been really bad for the Atlanta Hawks so far throughout the year, and looked like he had completely fallen off. He's a player who's older than a lot of people would think just because he came into the league as like a 27-year-old rookie or something like that. But he's genuinely one of the best scoring presences off of the bench, and they only gave up a second-round pick or two, as well as a matching contract. I think Terrence Mann for him. Yeah, I mean, that was a great pick. That was a great swap because it added a dynamic off of their bench. You know, I highlighted the uniqueness, the utility, the strict roles that were so strongly defined with this team being a unique factor to it. He does bring more ball handling, more creation, and more versatility to that team as a result. That is a more modern principle that takes away from that, but hey, it makes them a better basketball team. There's a lot of depth of scoring, and then they're a good defensive team as well because Zubac is one of the best rim protectors in basketball. When Kawhi is healthy and he's trying, he's a very excellent defender, and they still have a decent couple of point of attack defenders there as well with Chris Dunn and jump guy. His name is, he jumps. Why am I fucking blank? Derek Jones Jr. Jesus Christ. He jumps. Did you know that? Couple of good perimeter defenders and really good rim protection, and then a bunch of depth of scoring on the offensive end, a ton of three-point shooting as well. This team's good as hell, but the Denver Nuggets have Nikola Jokic. And in my preview for the Bucks versus Pacers series, I said that that's not going to be enough for the Bucks, where you just go, well, they have Giannis, so they got it. It's different for the Denver Nuggets because I do think the core around Jokic is substantially better than the incredibly hobbled roster around Giannis right now. He's not going to have Dame, doesn't have Chris Middleton. He's banking on Kyle Kuzma and like AJ Green to save his life. That's not exactly a very enviable position, but Jamal Murray, even if he can be disappointing, still is probably going to be close to a 20-point per game scorer. Michael Porter Jr. is an excellent catch and shoot option. Aaron Gordon is obviously the lob threat, and he shot the three so fucking spectacular in the regular season that I'm willing to bet a lot of the spacing issues that he brings to them end up being mitigated quite a bit. And even more importantly than that, Nikola Jokic is just in such a way as an offensive player. Like Giannis might be able to be a very good, like the Bucks could be a very good offense with Giannis on the floor just purely by the virtue of Giannis being there. But like that's not a guaranteed thing. Whereas with Jokic, if Jokic is on the floor, Denver's offense is having a good time. Pretty much always, especially relative to the rest of the league. So you have that baseline available to you. What it will really come down to, I don't think their offense would be quite as good as the Clippers, and that's the issue. Because if you can't match the Clippers' production, like they're not going to hold the Clippers back too much defensively. I do not think they're in a position to be just this great defense. I believe post-deadline, they have been 18th in defensive rating, or at least in that ballpark. Not good, not even above average defense, and a good ass offense, no doubt, but the Clippers are both a good offense and a good defense. If I'm not mistaken, I believe in my picking an X Factor video, I believe the stats post trade deadline was like 8th in defense and offensive rating since the trade deadline. I think the Clippers are the better, more well-rounded team, but I'm willing to say that the Jokic factor alone could win a series here. If you could guarantee me that we'd get something even somewhat resembling playoff Jamal Murray, then I would actually go with Denver here, but I feel like the depth and the well-roundedness, just the more team-oriented approach, the not relying so much on one guy thing. It's the same exact take I had with the Bucks versus Pacers series, but what do you know? They're actually kind of spiritually in a similar place in terms of one superstar against very good, well-rounded team. If Kawhi is healthy, especially throughout the whole series, dude, I just cannot pick the Nuggets here. I'm a big believer in this Clippers team, and I'm sure some Nuggets fans will be mad because there's no way to make a prediction where you're not going to piss off one fan base and make the other happy, but I think Denver can win it. It's just a matter of the supporting cast. I do not feel comfortable betting on that supporting cast. They haven't really done anything to earn my trust there. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Clippers, but I think I'm going to say Clippers in 7. I think it'll be a close series no matter what. Zubac versus Jokic is going to be an interesting matchup, and for what it's worth, I do think the Nuggets are more likely to lose series when they're playing against a really good 5, and Zubac has been a top 5 center in the NBA this year. I would say. He's been a very, very good 5, and he's really, really effective around the rim. Not only is he a high percentage directly at the rim right in the restricted area, he's also one of the best floater shooters in the entire game. In fact, I think his percentages rival Jokic this year. That might be a big problem for them. When you look at what Jokic faced in the playoffs center-wise in their 2023 run, I believe they had Phoenix in round 1 or round 2, and it was DeAndre Ayton that year because that was fresh off of the Kevin Durant trade, if I'm remembering that correctly. The conference finals, they faced the Los Angeles Lakers, which meant Anthony Davis, but I think Aaron Gordon got that matchup, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think maybe you could put Aaron Gordon on Zubac. Maybe? But I don't know. I don't think so. I think how Jokic defends Zubac is actually the X factor of this series as a whole, because we've seen Jokic play good defense in the playoffs. I'm not one of these people who's like, Jokic is the worst defender in the world. He's not even that good because he's actually a complete black hole on defense. Now, it's not that bad. It's really not. It gets super overblown. However, that could be a big factor. Defending him around the rim, especially with James Harden's playmaking setting him up, might be a tough one. Might be a really, really tough one. But yeah, I'm going with the Clippers. I have been a Nuggets fan. I have been a Nuggets defender. Don't hate me. I hate doing these. Everyone's going to yell at me. I'm trying my best. All right, I'll stop self-pitying. Shout out to Nick for editing this video, and goodbye.